We have all been involved in or at least heard about the talk about a college football super league that may eventually come down the pipeline. Well, now a group that involves highly influential people, not only in college athletics, but in sports as a whole, is actually proposing that very thing. We're going to talk about the details of that proposal, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it right after this word from my sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up? Come on in, make yourself comfortable, belly yourself up to the bar, and let me pour you out a shot of top shelf college football content. If you like top shelf college football news and analysis about the West Virginia Mountaineers, conference realignment, or the Big 12, you're in the right place. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let's get on with the show. Yesterday, actually, it was late yesterday evening. I'm recording this on April 4th. Late in the day on April 3rd, The Athletic, Andrew Marchand and Pete Thamel teamed up to write an article in The Athletic about a college football super league being proposed by a group called College Sports Tomorrow. It's a group that includes some college presidents, some college chancellors, some NBA executives, an NFL executive, and someone high up in Turnkey CRG, which is a search firm used to hire a lot of executives in college sports, including Tony Petitti, the most recent hired conference commissioner, who's now over the Big Ten. And the person at the Turnkey CRG actually, apparently, according to the article in The Athletic, was the person who really first proposed this group, getting it together and trying to promote this change and this really turning college sports on its head, so to speak, and getting it away from the NCAA. Now, some of the details of this proposal, now they're in the article. I'll leave a link to the article. I'm not going to read the article to you, but I will go over some of the highlights of it, some of the headlines, so to speak. But basically, it is a way for, according to this group of people, it's a way for college football specifically to move away from the NCAA, all be one entity. You'd have all FBS schools, and especially your Power 5 schools as one entity. They would be able to pay athletes directly, deal with all the lawsuits that may be forthcoming, and do all of that in a way that avoids antitrust lawsuits. That's the gist of it. Now, the way it will be formatted, according to this group, this CST group, it would create a system that would have the top 70 programs, all members of the 5 former major conferences, plus Notre Dame and the new ACC member SMU. So you'd have 70 teams, all current Power 5 schools or Power 4 schools, plus Oregon State, Washington State, plus Notre Dame, plus SMU. They would be permanent members of this new system, this new division, whatever you want to call it. New league. Let's just say new league. It would encompass, however, all 130 FBS schools. So you really wouldn't be leaving anybody out. And the way it would work is you would be doing away with conferences. So conferences would be gone. There would be no SEC. There would be no Big 10. There'd be no Big 12, no ACC. None of that. It'd all be gone. The perpetual members, the 70 I mentioned, would be in 7 10-team divisions. Then you would have an 8th division of 10 teams that would be promoted from the second tier. The 50-plus second division teams would have the opportunity to compete with one another and earn their way into the upper division. So there would be a promotion and relegation model in place for those final 10 teams. There would be no college football playoff. That would be done away with as well. It would be like an NFL type model for the playoff where you would have all 8 division champs would automatically get in the playoff, and then there would be wild card spots. And it would be determined by tiebreaker rules, much like the NFL model is today. Now, this new proposal also takes ideas from Premier League soccer, from Major League Soccer, as well as the NFL, as I've already mentioned. And these leaders, these highly influential people in this group, think that by doing all this as one entity, it would actually create more TV value for the networks other than the way they're doing it now. Now, not surprisingly, this group is having trouble gaining traction. They've not even been able to get meetings so far with Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti or Brett Yormark. The only people that have sat down and listened to this group so far is the ACC. The ACC Board of Directors heard a presentation from them back in February, apparently. They had meetings scheduled with the Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12, but they've all been canceled. They've been hesitant to sit down and meet because they don't want to upset their network partners of ESPN and Fox. Because apparently ESPN and Fox is not on board with this. Here's a quote in the article from Perna. Now, Perna is the last name of the person from Turnkey ZRG that's in this group. But here are his thoughts. He says the only way to solve the problem is to have a solution that is legally defensible, politically acceptable, commercially prudent, and is able to strike a partnership with the student athletes in a way that's really good for them. That is what Perna told The Athletic. So it's legally defensible because you don't have to deal with antitrust lawsuits because it allows this one large entity, this Super League, to pay their athletes directly. Now, the chancellor from Syracuse had this to say. I really think conferences in the NCAA are at a very significant likelihood of going bankrupt in the near future because of the lawsuits, both the ones that are going to trial soon and those that will follow. And there was a quote in here from West Virginia President Gordon Gee, ironically, who's also on this committee or in this group. He says that college sports is facing an existential crisis. He also said later in the article that speed is their friend, and I'm paraphrasing, but speed is their friend, and they need to move as fast as possible because these lawsuits are on the horizon. They're coming. They're not going away. They're facing hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars between the NCAA and the power leagues in lawsuits, in back pay, in NIL back pay, and other issues coming down the pipeline. Now, according to many, private equity money would be involved in this new venture, in this new Super League, and that has a lot of people nervous. But the people in this group, the highly influential executives in this group, are saying not to be concerned about that. This is not a money-making venture. It is simply a way to fix college sports and do it in a fair way. Here are my thoughts on this proposal. First of all, I think it's refreshing that someone outside the Big Ten and SEC are actually trying to do something about college sports. Because as a fan of a team in the Big 12, I'm worried that my conference, and thus by extension, the team I cheer for, is going to get absolutely screwed if the Big Ten and SEC are in charge of college athletics. That's number one. Now, and even though, like I mentioned, this is likely never to gain traction because they're having trouble getting interest from the conferences and the networks, why can't they at least sit down and have a conversation? Sitting down and having a conversation doesn't cost you anything. Hear these guys out. Hear the proposal. Maybe there's something in there, even if the whole proposal doesn't work. Maybe there are bits and pieces of it you can take away and use. Petitti and Sankey, you're doing this big heroic thing where you're breaking away, and breaking away is probably not the right word, but you're forming your own subcommittee or whatever to examine college athletics. Maybe there's something you can take away from this other committee, from this other group that you haven't thought about. or that may work with your plan, or you can partner them together, marry them together, and use it for the betterment of all of college athletics. What is wrong with having a conversation, man? Now, what I find ironic, though, when you look at the fact Gordon Gee's involved in this, how would you like to be a fly on the wall in a conversation between Gordon Gee and Brett Yormark when Brett Yormark wants nothing to do with this? The Big 12 wants nothing to do with this, apparently. How would you like to be in that conversation? And what makes it even more ironic is that Gordon Gee is on the College Football Playoff Board of Managers, who oversees and are the final level of authority for the College Football Playoff. He's on that. And the College Football Playoff doesn't seem to be on board with this. So I find that ironic as well. Now, there are a lot of other YouTubers and other people out there who have flat out poo-pooed this idea, this proposal. I actually don't think it's that bad of an idea. I mean, we haven't heard the numbers yet. The thought behind it is that most people who are poo-pooing it are saying, look, there's no way schools are going to get on board with this and risk making less money. Well, how do we know they're going to make less money? Until you see the numbers, how do you know that? Unless the networks have already told you flat out this is not going to work, we're not doing this, then I understand it. But again, can you at least have the conversation and maybe see if there are parts of it you can take away and blend with what you're wanting to do? Now, here are the schools in my mind that would potentially take the biggest hit in this situation. And that is the lower tier teams of the Big Ten and the SEC. The teams like Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Indiana, Purdue, Minnesota, just to name a few. Right now, those schools, man, they're living high on the hog, as they say here in West Virginia. They're getting paid the same TV revenue as Ohio State, Michigan, and Alabama and Georgia, the Blue Bloods. That might potentially go away under this proposal here because there's going to be unequal revenue sharing in this new proposal, which means the Blue Bloods would get paid more money than everybody else. So this proposal may not hurt the Alabamas and the Michigans and the Ohio States of the world or the Notre Dames. It may actually hurt the Minnesotas and the Purdues and the Indianas of the world. And there are more of those schools out there than there are the Michigans and the Alabamas. So I don't see how they'd ever get enough votes to make something like this work. So I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's feasible. But again, at least somebody's trying. At least there's a group of people out there who seems to give a crap and who seems to want to fix college athletics outside the SEC and Big Ten, who most of us know are going to do things that benefit them first. Why? Because that's what they get paid to do. Let's be honest. I want to know what you think. I kind of like this proposal, to be honest, again, without seeing the numbers and stuff. Now, if it's going to cause teams to take a revenue hit, obviously then it's going to be a big no. But until you see the numbers, how do you know that, right? So I'd love to see what kind of revenue numbers come back on these things. Hopefully there'll be more reporting on this and more things leak out, more details leak out about it. But again, Tony Petitti, Greg Sankey, Brett Yormark, people, if you happen to see this, at least sit down and have a conversation with this group. Hear what they have to say. That doesn't cost you a thing. Maybe a few minutes of your time. That's it. And you can have a cocktail while you're doing it. At least have the conversation. Okay? But I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section. Do you think this is a cockamamie idea, or do you actually like it? Do you actually think it makes some sense? Right now, I want to give a shout out to my VIP members of the day. They are Mountaineer Mama, Houston Cougars Germany, Timbo, and Andrew Smith. If you want to become a member of this elite club, hit the join button below or go to my channel page. Click the join button right beside or right underneath my photo. It'll show you all the perks that come with each level. Hit join again. Bada bing, bada boom. You're in. You're a VIP member. You get access to the early videos that I put out. Some of them include less ads. I also have been I'm going to start putting out more members only content that's only available to members. I put out a 1-minute short video yesterday that only my members have access to. I've been putting out some videos lately, conference realignment related, that are behind the paywall for a couple of weeks that only members have access to. If you want to make sure you get access to that stuff, become a VIP member. It's also a great way, an easy way to support my work here on the channel because the money will automatically come out of your account every month. You won't have to give another thought. But if you do decide you want to cancel, you can cancel at any time. So there's no long-term commitment unless you just want to. Also, if you want another way you can support me, buy my merch, guys. Get yourself a Cougar Corner shirt, hoodie, ball cap, coffee mug. I just went in my store earlier today and lowered my prices. My long sleeve shirts, my hoodies, even some of my t-shirts, I've lowered the prices of that stuff in there. I thought the pricing was too high. I went and I lowered it. And right now you get an additional 20% off of that if you buy through April the 6th. Take advantage of that deal right now. Link is in my description box to my store. With that being said, I really appreciate you tuning into this episode. Have a top shelf day and Q Country Roads.